ó ti yá.
gbogbo aláyẹyẹ pẹ̀lú ní pàtì àti ilé ìjọsìn ẹ fẹ́ ṣe polówó.
Heritage
TV.
la.
Heritage TV.
wọ́n bẹ nílùú London o.
Heritage TV.
wọ́n fọwọ́ wọn sọ̀yà o.
Heritage TV.
ẹ̀yin aráàlú London ǹjẹ́ ẹ ti gbọ́ pé iléeṣẹ́ Heritage TV tún ti gbé àrà tuntun yọ o. gbogbo àríyá yín pátápátá la ó máa bá yín polongo rẹ̀ jákèjádò gbogbo ayé ká máa ṣayẹyẹ ní London ká sì máa wò l'Amẹ́ríkà ní Nàìjíríà àti káàkiri àgbáyé lẹ́sẹ̀kẹsẹ̀ àti lójú kan náà bó jẹ́ lórí fídíò tàbí lórí photograph tó mọ́lẹ̀ yékéyéké Heritage TV ní bàbá o. gbogbo àwọn ayẹyẹ yín bí ọjọ́ ìbí ìsìnkú àgbà ìgbéyàwó àjọ̀dún ilé ìjọsìn yín Heritage Television ní kẹ́ ẹ máa bọ̀ tààràtà ìlú London la wà United Kingdom la tẹ̀dó sí ẹ kàn sí wa lórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ yìí 020-800-46100 tàbí lórí ẹ̀rọ alátagbà wa ayẹyẹ@heritagetv.co.uk àti lórí ẹ̀rọ alágbèéká 0734-123-4560 Heritage TV àbálẹ̀tù ọmọdé làwó.
Hello. Our people, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever it is you're tuning in from the face of the planet Earth. We bring you greetings on our Heritage TV multimedia platform. We're based in the UK and we disseminate our information, our programming on all the social media platforms and also on our own app, which is the Heritage TV multimedia app. I'm Her Royal Highness Princess Muradeung Adedoyin Sholari, and it's again on my show, Arise Conversations. And today we have a special guest. We'll be speaking with and being in conversation with Comrade Omoyele Sowore. Because of how the world is, there's been a different generation that has grown up since he first emerged as a journalist. That's how I knew him, as a journalist. We didn't have people called bloggers back then, but he wrote his bit on social media, on the internet, and he also birthed the platform we know as Sahara. So we have Sahara TV, we have Sahara Reports. Today we'll be speaking with him all the way from his home base in Nigeria, West Africa. It's our pleasure to welcome him on the Heritage TV multimedia platform. Ladies and gentlemen, come along with us. We'll be asking a variety of questions because since his Sahara days, he's also dabbled into politics. We know him as an activist. He speaks out his mind as he sees things or as he feels. We've seen him challenge authorities. We've seen him question governments, particularly the governments of Nigeria, both the military and, of course, the civilians. And then, of course, he also has now gone into the foray of politics. And therefore, I guess it's our turn now to question him and ask him, pertinent questions, which I'm sure he's up to the task to give us adequate answers and responses. On this show, we're going to try to push it to about an hour and a half, even though we always try to do an hour, but sometimes it overruns. So we said, okay, let's do an hour and a half. We'll speak with Comrade Sowore. We'll also open our telephone line, so some of you might have questions to ask him, or you might want him to explain some things, and you might want to also contribute to the conversation. Without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure on behalf of Heritage TV Multimedia and my platform, Arise Conversations, to welcome onto our platform in the UK, beaming all the way from Nigeria through the power of technology, Comrade Omoyele Sowore. Nice to have you, sir, and welcome. To the platform.
Thank you for bringing me. Just to correct, my first name is Omoyele. You have it correct on the platform, but I think your pronunciation is Omoyele, but it's Omoyele. So it's just to correct that.
Okay, I was sent Omoyele. I knew you as Omoyele, but sometimes you're like, okay, maybe I got it wrong all the time. So apologies for that. You are who you are, and that's your name, Omoyele
Not at all.
Sowore. You're welcome. Good to have you. First of all, I'd obviously like to ask you about your welfare and your family concerning this COVID-19 pandemic that has ravaged the entire world and, of course, our continent and the nation called Nigeria where you reside. Hope you're well and hope you're keeping safe.
Well, it's difficult to claim safety and wellness in a country where you are confronted with a global pandemic, which is COVID-19. But there's also a second pandemic in Nigeria, which is a leadership pandemic. So if you escape one, you're not likely to escape the other. So it's a tough situation to be in.
I totally understand and I agree with you. You and I had a little chat before our technical director put us on. And I also let you know that actually these dual pandemics affect the entire world. It just happens that it is more pronounced in places like Africa or the country Nigeria than the rest of the world, where leadership has been a great question mark for every one of us, particularly maybe born of a certain generation, and you find out that the leadership that you've met in a particular country that is your country of origin or the country that you find yourself living in is questionable because people don't do what they're supposed to do or what they've been voted in to do. In other words, they don't carry out the interest of the citizenry. And talking about leadership, you have also been a leader in quite a number of areas. You've been a leader in your initial foray into journalism, disseminating news, and activism. For there's a generation that probably are seeing you for the first time. They might have heard the name Omoyele Sowore. They might not know exactly who this person is. So I'd like you to kindly just, in a few words, let us know a little bit about you, your background, what you studied, why you decided to go into activism, because I know that through your activism, you were able to also do a lot of work in the areas of investigative journalism and, of course, disseminating information on online television. So over to you.
Well, sorry about that. I was born in Nigeria, raised in Nigeria, and I served the local, what is now I served the local government area of Ondo State. Attended primary and secondary schools in those places, and then proceeded to the University of Lagos, where I mostly did a lot of student activism. US, and I had my master's degree at Columbia University in New York, and shortly after that, set up Sahara Reporters. So that was my first foray into journalism. So, in a nutshell, that I think explains a little bit of my background.
Why did you decide to go into journalism? What was your drive? What pushed you? What was the thrust? What was the idea behind it? Because intention is very important. What was your intention? What did you hope to achieve?
Well, no, two things. One was technology. I arrived in the US when technology was becoming democratized. And when I say democratized, digital technology, websites, uh, disruptive technology came to be early 2000s. And I was quite fascinated by it because I was a news junkie. After I arrived in the US, if I don't read Nigerian news every night, I felt like I can eat. I need to know what's going on at home because I have a political background. Secondly, I also thought it was a very fantastic way to deal with what I found out to at that time to be offshore corruption. Uh, Seeing how Nigerian leaders who had taken over power at the civilian level in 1999 were just lavishing funds on themselves. The Commonwealth of the country, in the UK, the US. I found a lot of information that were freely available online regarding houses that contradicted the laws in the country. So my first collaboration was with a guy named Jonathan Elendu, and he was running a website known as Elendu Reports at that time. And we started publishing all these houses, and the more we published, the more people sent us. And we started sending people, citizen journalists, to go to places in the UK and the US to photograph houses, and we put them online, and they became bestsellers in Nigeria. So for me, having been directly away from the front lines, the internet provided me an opportunity to continue my ministry of activism far away from home because I really was missing home and I wish that I was back on the front lines. So I had no journalism background. I've said this a million times, but it was fascinating to just know the event of easy creation of websites, the low barriers to people like me could use available technologies to reach a huge number of people. So when I left the Lindo report, I started Sowore Reporters in 2006, and ever since then, it's been an amazing journey in terms of not just doing what I believe had become effectively, and to put the feet of people in power to fire. It also helped change the face of journalism. It might be sometimes, I think, globally.
Wonderful. Thank you for just talking us through that. Another thing I also wanted to ask you is what was it that made you feel you wanted to kind of peel the layers of happenstances in African politics and governance and Nigerian politics and governance at that young age? What was it?
See, I come from a period where I was a student activist and to fight very strongly whenever we had any little information that there was corruption. And in those days, it was mostly the military guys building houses. I remember living in First Act Town a little bit, and this military guys were building mansions First Act Town across, violating building codes, taking over the recreational areas of First Act, and thinking these guys are really corrupt, And I came back in 2003 to Nigeria, 2003, after I finished my master's degree in the UK, sorry, in the US, and came to see mansions. What I thought were mansions in First Act became what now you can call boys' quarters. And look, so was this the democracy we fought for, to chase away the military chiefs to replace them with civilian armed robbers or unarmed robbers? And that had me thinking creatively about how to challenge them. And when I found information available freely online, it excited me that you could just tell the story of corruption by text, pictures, and videos in ways that it's multimedia and digital in nature that people can understand them faster and better, and use that to judge why they are in the social political conditions they found themselves. I think their leaders are just robbing them. And a lot of those information we had in those days were hidden from the Nigerian public at home. Nobody knew, for instance, that James Sowore had a 2.8 million pounds house in the UK. Nobody knew, or that he had a luxury automobile that he had never driven before, a Bentley. Nobody knew. And if you had written them as a text, nobody would understand, right? But when you see the pictures or you see the documents uploaded, then it made people feel angry and they can connect with why their own local conditions was the way it was. So I think that really helped to propel me in going for more and more in terms of, shining light on the corruption that was going on in the country. And then at the point, people started confiding in us regarding local corruption. And then we went into both private and public sector corruption. And then we started exposing people who are called politically exposed individuals across the country and connecting with their properties and their assets around. So it got to a point that Nigerians who were working in hotels would send us receipts of lodgings and credit card records of Nigerian officials as they were just wasting money around the world. And some guys would send us information about cars, coaches, jets, who owned what. And it just kept getting better in terms of being able to expose these characters over time.
Wonderful. Did you have the intention to shock at the time? Obviously, using the tools of technology, because sometimes we know that the news items that we put out there as journalists or broadcasters, if we don't put the element of shock, it might not catch the attention of people. That's one. And two, if that was also part of your strategy, would you say that on your platform, Sahara Reporters at the time, were you able to actually achieve this? And what was the kind of feedback, apart from the audience or the viewers and the people that followed you who would send you, information or ask questions? How about the actual culprits, if I can put it that way? Did you have any kind of challenging situations from them?
Oh yeah. They were upset. They were pissed off, and because they had never had to deal with a situation where evidence of the corruption is out in the open, to the world wide web. Never. And the interesting thing about these guys or these characters, the bad guys in Nigeria, is that not only do they buy houses, jets, they buy luxurious cars, they also have children attending some of the most expensive schools in the world. So what really gets them sometimes is when their kids are confronted with their parents' corruption. So we will go to them maybe in a London college, university, or primary school, because everybody now has access to the internet, and they say, "Oh wow, your father is a thief," And then most times when I ever get a call from Nigerian politicians in those days, when they call and threaten me, they don't do that anymore these days. It would be that, why would you do that to me? My daughter just called me, or my son just called me, saying that they said their father is a thief. How dare you that? And then after that, they were threatening me, of course. Of course, there were a lot of offers of bribe. Can we meet somewhere? Can you take down the story? And then when that didn't work, they also threatened me with a lot of lawsuits. I got sued a few times as well in the US with a lot of letters, lawsuits, text messages, social media threats. And when I would come to Nigeria, of course, a few times they were at the airport and tried to track me and trace me. And ultimately, of course, when I was arrested last year, the bulk of the questions revolved around things that they claimed I wrote about them that they weren't happy about. So, and at that point, we had broadened the horizon of reporting of the malfeasance of people in government. So, included judges, lawyers, pastors, imams, all the, men and women of timber caliber, that, as they say in Nigeria. We had covered all of them. So some of them sued me and so many of them threatened me. There was a time Sahara reporters' local assets were frozen in Nigeria. There was a time in Lagos, a young man was sent to harass and beat me up physically. And when we got to the station, I discovered that they planned it with the police commissioner at that time, Lagos, Owosheni, Fatai Owosheni, all kinds of things, threats. And I still get those threats till this day.
That's very interesting because I was listening to you now. I'm sure our viewers are listening. By the way, if you're just tuning in, it's Arise Conversations with Princess Morade Adedoyin, and it's coming to you live on the Heritage TV multimedia platform. We're based in the UK, and you can watch us on any of the social media platforms, and also on our own app, which is the Heritage TV multimedia app. Our special guest today is none other than Comrade Omoyele Sowore, activist, political activist and social activist, obviously, journalist. He's also done thing, and he's politician. Yes, so he has also stepped into the foray of politics in Nigeria. And today we're going to be having a conversation, just talking about his life, his journey, where he's at the moment, where he wants to take his vision to, and some of his views and his take on the Yoruba nation, on the entity of geographical space called Nigeria, Africa, and the rest of the world. And of course, his thoughts about being a man, a father, a husband, and just a human person as well. So if you're just tuning in, that is our special guest today. Thank you, Comrade Omoyele. My next question now is going to go to you as a politician. Why in the name of God did you ever think, okay, I'm going to go into politics and slug it out with them, and actually I'm going to go for the number position? One, why did you do that? What was your thinking? Number two, how did you think you could be president? Did you think you had what it took? As you know, in Africa, maybe in the rest of the world is not that made noise about, but in Africa and in Nigeria, money is always a vital point if you want to go into politics. So let's take it first, why you went into politics. What made you think you had the qualification to vie as president? And how did you think you were able to go in there and slug it out with the rest of the people? Except there's some money that you have that obviously we didn't know that you had that kind of money to go fight them in the political ground of Nigeria. So over to you.
So I have, contrary to this perception that I am new to politics, I'm not new to politics. I just haven't done partisan politics before. But from when I was a student activist, I contested elections and won as, from class captain to the student union presidency. And interestingly, nowadays, our elections were even more, they were more intense than the Nigerian national elections that you have today. We have to campaign, debate, and submit a manifesto and convince people, students, male, female, to get them to vote for you on election day. Second aspect of it is that I'm a student of history, and I looked at Nigeria history at that point, looked at the leaders, both young, old, and discovered that they possess acumen, nothing special, because the condition of Nigeria speaks to their incompetence and lack of creativity, um, lack of leadership qualities. And I looked at myself and said, educational background, as a character, as a mission, vision, I could convince Nigerians to vote for me, and that was what made me go for the presidency at that time. And I was no doubt going by the outcome of the way we campaigned, the buzz created, that I was probably one of the better candidates in that election. There's no doubt about it. But it turns out that they weren't interested. They weren't interested in free and fair elections, and that is probably a conversation for another day in the future. But what I saying here to you is that when I then went around Nigeria campaigning in 34 states between 2018 and 2019 when the election held, I had been to more places than probably all the candidates combined together. I didn't have a private jet. I didn't have too much money. All the money I raised, or we raised for the presidential campaign, was about 150 million naira. It made more impact. Made more impact to the point that the mainstream candidates, when I say mainstream, the candidates of the two other major political parties, who of course have huge watchers, couldn't debate us. They had to skim me out of the presidential debate because they were afraid of going on TV to espouse the idea. Whereas we were there all over this, every opportunity we had, explaining to Nigerians and breaking down how to fight insecurity, breaking down how to bring about power, infrastructure, solve the corruption problem, uh, health sector, education, tourism, agriculture. We broke it down to the level of the least person. We traveled on those roads that are bad. We arrived and walked into hospitals that don't exist. We saw the water supply system. We saw the poor power and energy sector that practically doesn't exist. Don't we want to talk about the industry? No industry. There's a service sector that is helping the politically connected to launder money. That is the only industry that is available in Nigeria. So after coming through Nigeria, I also came to the conclusion, which I'd always known, that Nigeria is not as big as people make it sound. It's not as complex as people make it sound. But see, the complex, it's easy to make a simple problem complex if you have someone with no idea solving the problem. It's just like, it doesn't matter how good looking or tall looking it is or tall someone is. If you give them how strong they are, if you give them a sick person, if they are not a doctor, they can't successfully treat the person, right? It doesn't matter how well you know how to talk, right? You can't convince people who are smart and bright with ideas that they are knowledgeable about. So what Nigeria leaders have been doing before we came into that race is try and error. And the moment we came up and started challenging them, oh man, you could see that they were all up in arms against my person and the political party that we started at that time. So there was nothing. In fact, as I have said, and I say this all the time, this thing in Nigeria that is rocket science. But they want you to believe that the president of Nigeria must be a rocket scientist, but then he can't even light a candle. Right? They want, you are not supposed to be asking for, you are supposed to be from the local government. Whereas if you have a president in Nigeria who knows just a few things, how to get a few things right, and who is mobile, who is physically healthy, mentally alert, and intellectually astute, you get a lot of things done. A lot of things done within sometimes things that could take a year, hours for you to get done.
I think I totally.
I want to and that actually would be even more I would say he got really upset. That is this the country we had left for charlatans and invalids to run all these years? Because had we stepped up before now, maybe in 1999, maybe by now we would have completely taken control of our own destiny and our country from these incompetent people. So that is what my experience was. There was nothing challenging about it. There was nothing about governing Nigeria that was difficult. As I saw it, it's just a bunch of people covering up their inadequacies with big boo-boos, and all of that's funny
Thank
clothes
you.
that our politicians around here.
Thank you so much indeed. It's very interesting, listening to you. Sometimes you need to create time to listen to a man or a woman to understand their thinking and understand where they're coming from and what their take is on certain issues. There's some things that you shared in your response to me now, and I was able to pick up a few things. Number one, yes, it is not rocket science to be a leader or to rule any particular organization, or in this case, a nation. I mean, I'm a politician myself. I'm a daughter of the first republic politician, so I am an Adedoyin. And during their time, they were probably even younger than us when we got into politics. They were very young. They went out there with a program and they fought for their country. And when they came back, they were able to do things like you said. It doesn't take time. Western Nigerian television, which I'm very glad I also worked in when I started television, was 3 months. Within 3 months, it was built and put together. And these were the young people, led by, of course, Anthony Nahuru was in charge then. So there are things that they had done. They had, put up the Wema board. There's so many things that they had done in Nigeria at the time, particularly the Western region. So I do agree with you that it's not rocket science. These are things that can be done when the thinking of the leadership is in place and the intention is right. But I'm going to flip the coin on you, my comrade. Have you ever thought about it? Two things. There's one thing for leaders to want to do something and fail for two reasons. The first reason is what we've discussed and what you've explained, because they don't really have what it takes, and they're in there for things that interest them. Put money in my pocket. But have you ever thought about Nigerians being the most difficult and challenging bunch of people to ever try to lead? Have you ever thought about that? So basically, there's problems with both the leadership and the led. I want your views now. You've spoken about the leadership. I want your genuine, truthful take on the led, the citizenry. How do you see the Nigerian citizenry themselves?
See, all of them are linked together. They're interlinked and interwoven. See, the citizenry you're talking about, that is the led, as you described them, they didn't fall from the sky. They are acting according to their own interests too, because of the way their leaders have led them, right? In fact, if I can tell you that some of the most loyal citizens in the world or followers in the world are Nigerians, how bad you lead them, they'll still support. If you go today, all the bad leaders have led Nigeria in the last 30 years. Supporters, and they still believe in their lives. They still believe in their personality. Babangida has supporters tomorrow. If he has a birthday, they want pay for newspaper adverts for him. Obasanjo has supporters. There's barely a day that you don't see people trooping to his hilltop mansion. Jonathan has supporters, So that shows to you that we have very loyal citizenry, who will support anything.
And Comrade Sowore also has supporters. You also have supporters.
Exactly. So imagine then, that's correct. Imagine then if they have leaders who send their children to school for free, right? Who give them roads, highways that don't kill them, who give them health care where they can get real help, give them schools that can give them education and not ignorance, and that can give them job opportunities in the country without going to how they will feel about it. And the other part of it, just to tell you that Nigerians are not as difficult as they're being perceived. Take that same Nigerian that you're talking about, put them in a society where things are working and see how they fit in there and they work efficiently. Even our Nigerian police force, as bad as they are, anytime they take a few of them to go for a United Nations assignment somewhere, everybody says the Nigerian police force is the best. Why? Because the Nigerian space, as it is designed and run, organized, makes it impossible for any rational human being to want to do anything right. So think of a guy who wants to work in the civil service and want to steal. He would die of poverty. Whereas the ones that are thieves will be celebrated at parties. They will build mansions. The president is always in the minority. Most importantly, there are no consequences. So if you have leaders who can bring that kind of mission and vision to drive people to do what is right, and they see results, that actually there's a budget this year that says there's a road from here to Ibadan, and they wake up 3 months later, like your dad did, and there's a highway from Lagos to Ibadan, dual carriageway, and in 1 hour you are in Ibadan, as opposed to 6 hours, right? I think you get more followers because Nigerians are not that bad that they always want to follow incompetent people. But guess what? In the last 40 years, probably more, there is a whole generation of Nigerians that have never seen anything good in their life. So even if you present a good candidate in front of them, they're cynical about it because a lot of other people come, they've sold them down the drain. Look at me. I'm here still remembering Awolowo because it was the only reason I was able to go to secondary school at the age of 10, graduated at the age of 15 from secondary school. The moment they closed down the school, my younger brother, some of them did not graduate from secondary school until they were 20 something. So because look at that number of years. But it was because Awolowo came. Awolowo did not even build a single school. Let me explain to you why I said downtime. He just had a dream and gave every school a template, every village a template. I was one of the people that built my own school. We molded the block, they brought cement, they gave little money to a contractor, but every villager was dying to get a school. So I would say, you want school? Build it. Look at Lagos. Those poultry farms that they call schools. In reality, you can't even call those things schools. But because people wanted education, anything they could find, a roof, whether it's thatched or not, a few blocks, cinder blocks, and some iron bar in the middle, you have a school, a blackboard. And that was today is the reason why they still call Jack on the Baba Kekere, because they were hoping that he would succeed Awolowo. Of course, greed took a better part of the man under Abacha, and the rest is history now. So I'm just explaining to you that going by what Nigeria is today, there is nothing special about building roads, building schools, healthcare system, because whatever we are supposed to have for the public that's not available. Look into a neighborhood in London. That house is there, built by a Nigerian or bought by a Nigerian. Absolutely. Look into a neighborhood owned by one person who doesn't even stay there. Most of the houses in London, they don't stay there. Let me give you an example. An average Nigerian rich man that sends their children to school in London, this expensive schools in London, which you know about, spends over $400,000 a year, means pounds a year, in some cases, for university students. By the time you add first class, trips to and fro, maybe they go twice in a semester, food, buy them car, they live in mansions, the pocket money, you have £400,000. Convert £400,000 spent on one child of a Nigerian politician or politically exposed or connected person. Give it to a university. In fact, with that, you can start the foundation of a university. That means by now, every local government ought to have a university because there are 774 local governments, but there are over UK schools spending £400,000. It's community schools that just give people associate degrees, and you build 774 of them. You'll be able to accommodate more people who want to go to university today in Nigeria, because we have 200 million people, out of which over 70 million of them are young people looking for a place to go to school. And everywhere you create a university, you also create jobs, right? Every time you create
Absolutely.
a social infrastructure in a place, you create jobs. Anytime you create a health center, you create jobs in two ways. You make people healthy, which makes them work harder, and you also create jobs for people who take care of them. Anytime you build
Absolutely.
an industry, a factory, you create opportunity, you create happiness. But here we don't do that. We keep just all the time. Now this is impossible. We can't build roads. Our revenues are dwindling. But God, for God's sake, the revenues are dwindling, but you are flying jets. A politician in Lagos has 3 jets, and I'm not hiding his name, Bola Tinubu. So where did he get the money? Where is his cocoa farm? Where does he get the money from? It's coming from the state of Lagos that they are holding, whose jugular they are holding and milking on a regular basis. So why are we lying to ourselves that a brand new set of leaders who have the capacity and intellect, the honesty and the character to lead will not lead Nigeria to El Dorado? If that happened in India, it happened in China, why not here? Why not here?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes, you are very correct that obviously it's not rocket science to
Yes.
be inventive and innovative in the way leaders would lead their people and take their nations forward. Particularly, we're talking about the option called Nigeria at the moment. And talking about that, I want to also move now towards the West, or I should say the Yoruba nation, because all the things that we noted, that I mentioned and you also elaborated on, that the first republic politicians were able to achieve in education, in the technology of broadcasting industry, was actually really in the Western region at the time. So can we say that maybe there's an imbalance in what each region is able to contribute? That's number one. Number two, what are your views about Nigeria going back to regional, whereby the power in the center will be weak and the regions will be able to look after themselves as they did way back then, and it worked. They were not given time to continue because obviously they stepped in with a coup, but it was working. And that's why you referred to you even being a recipient of the ideology that the premier at the time, Chief Obafemi and his team came up with when it came to the issue of free education for all. So there are 2 questions I've thrown at you there. Over to you.
Yeah. So what is important is there is this emphasis on resources, and that's and I think sometimes we make the mistake about resources to the point that if you look at the history of resources in Nigeria, point that there were 3 clear regions in the country, right? You had the south, this southwest we have now, including the Midwest, which is some part of it is now south, and then there was the east, right? And then there was the north. The north was a uniform, a monolith. That is, everybody in the middle belt and everybody was regarded as a northerner, including the likes of Danjuma in those days. But that's no longer the case. But don't forget that the north also had these resources in those days when agriculture was big, the cotton, the pyramids of groundnuts. They were not fake. They brought in money.
Oh no,
This
not at
same
all.
Nigeria they were talking. Yes, huh?
I said not at all. Every region had what they produce.
Every
I don't have an
yes,
issue. I don't have an issue with
yeah,
resources. I was just talking about how each region
yeah.
manage their own resources and
They,
they
I want
re-put it into the system.
yeah. It still came back to leadership, right? The Southwest didn't even make as much money as, for example, the South in those days, right? The rivers area, because there was oil. But it was a function of how the leadership was managing the resources of the Southwest. The other bit was that naturally, any part of the world that's closer to the coasts usually gets better exposure because of trade. you know Better exposure sometimes also come with diseases, right? You heard about the black plague. It started around Italy because of trade. So trade is always a factor in exposure sometimes. And you are closer to anywhere there's transportation. In those days, water transportation was the way people interacted in terms of trade. So the Southwest had those advantages. If you still go to Calabar today, and I was there in 2018 and 2019, you would, I think 2018, you will still see that impact of their interaction with the colonial world trade because of the that you found in those places. So what am I trying to say to you is that don't overemphasize resources, because you can be blessed with resources if you don't have resources managers who reinvest and invest in the future. People who have clear idea of the vision to develop. You're not going to go anywhere. If you have all these kind of leaders today only interested in themselves, it doesn't matter how much is available for them to manage. They will mismanage it. So, and I studied a bit of history about why Nigeria is the way it is. You see, and I've repeatedly said this: Nigeria wasn't set up as a nation. Nigeria was set up as a business by the British. In fact, at the point, what then later became USC, the company, that was being run at that time by Gordon, was made to help set up Nigeria. And by 1914, they had looked at the northern part, and the southern part, and they had the amalgamation of both the southern and northern part of Nigeria. And that was what became Nigeria. But Nigeria never had a chance to become a nation, because when they collapsed, they handed over to some of the most incompetent people. Part of it was that we never fought for our independence the way several other nations in the world fought for their own independence. Our own independence we got on a platter of gold by drinking tea in London. Every now and then they invite us over. We sent some of our best brains, according to that period. I don't know if they were the best brains. And then they came and they would go and see the queen, kneel down for the queen or greet the queen. And then one day the queen was tired of the whole agitation, and they gave us independence. We didn't really fight for anything. And by the time we came back, this nation state we are supposed to be built, started having issues because of the kind of leaders, the puppets of the colonial masters that were thrown into the system. The fact that the colonial masters, particularly Britain, did not leave. They left. They gave us a flag, but they didn't give us the economic power. They kept controlling things. They were in charge of the elections. You must have seen a video recently by Smith explaining how they asked them to rig these elections. So we missed the boat in terms of becoming a nation. So you had a question.
Thank you. The one thing I also took from your response now is the issue of resources. My question had nothing to do with resources, because even then, the Western region had limited resources. We didn't have the oil that has made everybody go mad now. We didn't have that. We had a different kind of oil, which is palm oil. So that was different. What I was saying, but you've already responded to it, is really how the leaders at that time, as young as they were, I think because also they were very much interested in the independence of their country. and they went there with a heart of wanting to do something, no matter how big or small, to contribute their own quota to taking the nation from the clutches of the colonizers and setting us in that path of true freedom and independence. But as you also rightfully said, the soldiers stepped in, and sadly, history has told us exactly what happened. But another thing that you also mentioned was about the amalgamation. Was there really
Yes.
an amalgamation? Is there any document to that effect? There's a big question mark on that, and I think we'll come to deal with that when we get to that stage. Right now, we've talked about Nigeria. I want to now talk about you as a Yoruba. I believe you're a Yoruba man with the name Omoyele Sowore, and where you said you come from. Do you see yourself as a Yoruba man first, and then a Nigerian? Because before Nigeria emerged as a nation, Yoruba has always been for centuries. So let me have your views on that.
Interesting question. See, I see myself as a human being, and I
Well,
actually have a
we're all
really
human beings.
yeah.
We're all
Yes.
human beings.
So
I was
I
very
don't.
specific.
I'm just being
Specific
honest.
about you being
I want to be direct. I want to be direct with you. I want to be direct with you. So I I come from my own geographical identity is Ijo Apoy, even though and I'm saying this so that you can get clarity. My grandparents, my great grandparents came from Ijesha, Ilesha, so they're Ijesha. Passed through Ijebu. I think they were running from Yoruba kings who were raiding slaves. Then they said they won't be slaves. And they came and passed through somewhere in Ijebu and met, it was husband and wife, supposedly. They met named Sowore. And that time they've been trying to have kids and they didn't have, and they promised the stream that if they will name their child Sowore. That's how we came about, right? The name Sowore came about. So we are from
so
Malaysia, but
your family name was different before.
oh yeah, it was Subuloye. That's the bigger family
Okay.
name. But my parent, my dad, yeah, that's Sowore. So but when they came to Ondo State, where we are located now, they mixed with Ijo people, right? And they were living together in what is now known as Eseudo. And they became part of the Ijo Apoy. And every Apoy town, there's 9 of them. There's another one there's a replica in Bayelsa State, Kiribo Mamland, which is
Okay.
where I'm from. There's Igbekebo, Ibokoda is larger. So you have Oboro. So all those kind of names are from there. So that's why I did say to people when they asked me, I said, I'm in Apoy because that's where my parents settled. In fact, my dad and mom speaks a little bit of Ijo language, but I don't because originally that's how they came from Malaysia. So in a way, I won't be wrong to call myself Yoruba because I speak Yoruba. My name is Yoruba. My culture is Yoruba. My attitude is Yoruba. My boisterousness is a Yoruba thing, everything Yoruba. But I explain to you what it is. The reason why I do not take the ethnic label as much as people would love me to do is because I've seen it all. I've seen what Yorubas did to themselves, especially during Abiola's time. At least I was around. My parents told me what they did to Obafemi Awolowo. What the Yorubas do to themselves. And before all these things, people Yoruba we like to romanticize our culture. Yorubas were part of the massive slavery of black people. Yoruba Obas, leaders, right? Yorubas fought themselves wars. There were wars. In fact, most of Yoruba cities and towns today are located in places where they were escaping carnage, an internecine war against themselves. In fact, if you look at the history of the Yorubas, Even our names portray violence. It's either the name is speaking to violence or is speaking to some kind of conquering people, or oppression. So, and I've done a lot of research to understand that yes, you can be a Yoruba person and well, you can also be a Yoruba person and be accommodating and be open-minded. Probably there are only two tribes in the world that the British had a problem with colonizing. The Yorubas and another tribe in India. I don't remember the name. Like they were very, very difficult to colonize them. They couldn't figure out where they got their intelligence from, how they were able, weave around them. They couldn't interpret English to them. They learned the English language better than they themselves. Before the Englishman arrived Yoruba land, they had already found a Yoruba man who translated the Bible and had their own hymn songs. So you can't take that away. That Yoruba people are unique people, but Yorubas also it's got a lot of problems that it's just not as simple as. And I know where you're headed. You want to find out whether I support the creation of your nation and all that. We've been through all that before. When Abiola was incarcerated, and you can ask.
No, that is one of the questions.
That
is definitely one of the questions. But that's just a tiny. That's a tiny bit.
What I'm trying to
the questions I want to ask you today.
Yes. All right.
I'm trying to find out who you are as a person. Sorry. I'm trying to find out who you are, and I want our viewers to know who you are as a person, rather than just as an activist. Because apart from being an activist and a politician, and a journalist, who are you? What is behind that activist? What makes him tick? You understand? So your being. That's why I was asking that question. Of course, we would definitely have to talk about, the Oduduwa nation or Yoruba nation.
As Yoruba
because when we look at it, we cannot continue to rehash. Sorry. Can I just quickly? Of Yorubas, all Yorubas, all true-born Yorubas, Akinkoju. So am I. All of because Akinkoju means what it means. You understand? But what I was trying to say is, we cannot continue to go on rehashing. This is what it's just like in the US now. We know about this Black Lives Matter thing. People don't want to keep on saying this is what the slave masters did to us. This is what the Western world did. They want to take things into their own hands and say, okay, what is the way forward? So that's where I was going now. Okay, now we know that on top of you being a politician, an activist, a social commentator, a journalist, this is actually Omoyele Sowore, the man, who he is. So you have told us you are Yoruba, and you have told us you are an Akinkoju, which I love. Not many people can beat their chest and say, I'm an Akinkoju. What? I didn't hear that.
Joe Apoy, because I said part of my heritage is Joe Apoy as well. I said part of my heritage is Joe.
Would that be your mom?
Apoy,
your heritage, is that your mom's side?
No. Yeah. No. It's where we lived. It's part of how we settled and the culture we grew up in. For example, if you see me and you look closely, if you look closely at my cheeks, you will see tribal marks. The Yoruba tribal marks. I have a Joe tribal marks on my face. So on Judgment Day, they will put me on the Joe side because of the tribal marks.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, because you own who you are. That is the way I would look at it. That is who you are.
No, I'm
and you're bold enough to.
I'm not saying that on the lighter side. I'm saying that on the lighter side. Let's go on. Let's keep going, please.
Yes, I was also trying to do some banter with you. So basically, what I'm trying to say now is we cannot continue to rehash what the Western world did, what even the roles that the Africans themselves played, in the slave trade, and then again when the Western world came again with colonization. Now, what we want to know is, what would you suggest is the way forward? What is your blueprint? Because as a man who is a thought leader and who thinks very deeply about the well-being and the welfare of people, especially somebody that nursed the idea of becoming the president, you will definitely in your mind be thinking of, where do we go from here? So what is the way forward? What would you portray as the solutions that people can listen to you and say, yes, we believe what Comrade Omoyele is saying is something we can go with? Because people really need answers now. That's where we're at. Everybody's fed up with what's going on
We
there.
have,
So we're looking
Princess,
for, what is the
Princess, we have to be specific. What specifically are you asking for? Which solutions are you asking for? This is a broad question.
No, that's why I said you
Are
are
you talking
somebody
about
who,
Nigeria?
one, you have told us, of course, the whole shebang. With you can't talk about politics and remove Nigeria. You understand? You can't talk about Nigeria and remove politics because of the role you have played so far in the various positions that you've held, from when you were even a student leader to when you went into journalism to when you went into activism and social commentator, up until the recently when you decided to step into politics actively and say, yes, I want to be the president of this country. There are people
when I
who
ran,
supported you, who still support you.
yeah, absolutely. You're actually speaking from the UK, where we had the bulk of our support in the last election. The bulk of people supporting me or who supported me, a lot of them are from the United Kingdom, especially people who provided financial support, and they still support it today. But I'm trying to say to you, when I ran in 2018, there was a blueprint for how to rescue Nigeria, and the blueprint is still there. We named these heats, which represented each of the issues confronting Nigeria in the order of priority that we needed to confront them individually and collectively, of which security was our number one priority. I'm sorry, they just took light, as if to speak
NEPA.
to what I'm trying to talk to. Yes, but I'm going to turn on my phone lights until they turn on the jet. So, of which security was our number one priority, followed by power, energy, infrastructure. And we looked at and moved on to corruption, that we need to fight corruption holistically. We talked about an an inclusive economic model that is different from the structural adjustment program, the World Bank and the IMF, that doesn't take into consideration the vulnerability of our people, the poor, who do so many of the things that they think they should pay for, right? And then we talked about this whole conversation about restructuring Nigeria. That makes it spicier. But our own restructuring was to deal first and foremost with creating a new constitution for Nigeria, because the current constitution is a fraudulent document created by the military, and then allow the constitution to go through referendum, in which case people who are even advocating for regionalism, people who want to break away from Nigeria, can have a say. Or we have a clause in the constitution that if you are tired of the bad marriage called Nigeria, you are at liberty to conduct a referendum to leave. That was our own idea of restructuring. Health, we had our agenda on education, culture, tourism, and technology. Spicer hits. These problems were broken down to every level. We had documents, we still do. But guess what? As we were campaigning at that time, the other parties, our opponents in the APC and PDP, were stealing these ideas shamelessly. and parading them as their own. Yes, we had these things broken down to the number of gallons of water that needs to be provided. How we provide gas pipelines to houses in Nigeria. This is 2020. In Nigeria, you still have to roll your gas cylinder to go and buy gas if you can afford gas in the first place. But all the households in Nigeria, about 40 million of them, if you put gas pipelines in them, imagine the number of employments you provide, how that's about, the process of any business that has never happened before. We wanted Nigeria into a tech ground for the rest of Africa, and we wanted to eliminate the the bicameral legislative system. That is our position, that we don't need a Senate in Nigeria. We can make do with just the House of the House of Representatives, where every local government is represented, instead of a Senate that is occupied by former governors. It has become a coven of thieves. It has become the retirement homes of governors who were not prosecuted, or some of them are even still actively being prosecuted by the EFCC. So we wanted to reduce waste. We had it down to the number of schools that needed to be built, the number of nurses, doctors that needed to be 4 years, the number of kilometers of roads that needed to be built. We had it down to the science of how many years of trains and the speed of trains that could take somebody from Lagos to Port Harcourt and that will do in 3 years, within 3 hours, which would have boosted economy. We had it down to even sustainability, of which we said even for electricity, solar power and biotechnology. Bio as a way of electricity that would divide the country up and say, for the north where there's abundance of sunshine, there will be solar. So all these problems have been solved. In terms of security, we discuss what we'll do with the army generals who are stealing and who are making Boko Haram into a business today. How we'll retire all of them and let the police take care of internal security. These are things that are discussed everywhere across the world.
Thank you so much indeed. Well, I'm sure there are quite a number of people who followed you at the time, and as you said, especially from the UK, and sadly, we're not even allowed to vote, so our votes don't even count. But that's a story and a discussion for another day. Right now, I want us to go to the audience, the people that have viewed us. There's some of them who want to actually ask questions. So our technical director is going to open the phone lines. And if you're watching us from anywhere in the world, you will see the numbers to call so that you can ask your questions. If you're just tuning in, it is we're having an audience with Comrade Omoyele Sowore, who we know is an activist, a journalist, social commentator, politician, and also it's coming to you on Arise Conversations, and I am Princess Muradin Wadidun Shola, your host. And it's on the platform of Heritage TV Multimedia. You can access us from any of the social media platforms and also on our own app, which is the Heritage TV Multimedia app. So please look on your screens and you'll be able to see the numbers to call so that we can put your call through and you can ask Comrade Sowore the question that you might have. I'm going to go back to Comrade Sowore now to ask him maybe one or two more questions before the phone calls start coming in. So, Comrade Sowore, I'm very particular, maybe one, because I'm of the Yoruba origin myself, and I do know also a bit of history about Yoruba and the Yoruba nation. We are aware that the Edo, back in the day, it was called Midwestern State, and then they broke it up a bit. But the Midwestern state, when we trace it, we can see that there is a lot of Yoruba-ness, if I can coin that word, with our people, right up to the Ijaw, the Benins, the Ishans, they have a lineage that stems from Oduduwa.
You have a call.
So for me, you are still very much an Oduduwa son. If you don't want to call yourself, you don't want to use the word Yoruba. You're still from that lineage. And I'm very particular because we believe, even in Yoruba parlance sometimes, that if there's a marriage between a man and a woman for so long and there's no progress, that marriage is not giving birth to any children, or the children they're giving birth to keep dying. I'm saying this in a proverbial way now. Sometimes it's best for that man and woman to go their separate ways. Uh, Oshaboli lam, if you mean Oshibami, that's what the Yoruba people would say. And I think some other cultures have the same kind of proverb. For me, growing up, and as you said, there are some people who are 40 years and above, and they have not really seen any progress. We were talking to you a few minutes ago, boom, there was loss of electricity. It boils down again to why would a nation in 2020, a nation called the Giant of Africa, not be able to manage its own power and electricity supply? So my question really is, what is exactly your view about the Yoruba or the Oduduwa wanting to go on their own? Is it because you don't feel you want to be a president of just a part of that country called Nigeria? Or do you feel you will not be able to win better with the Oduduwa nation?
No, I completely don't see it that way. I have a Pan-African outlook to life. That is just even for me, the continent of Africa was not even big enough as a country for me. If I have my way, the whole of the entire African continent will be true. Because that way we can push better and more people can benefit from the wholeness and the unity of the African continent. And a lot of our leaders that even created Nigeria were part of the movements. I remember Nigeria spent a lot of money fighting strongly
In South Africa,
for South Africa, And guess
yeah,
what? Africans that you see in South Africa today migrated from Nigeria. They migrated from the people they call Bantu, which is in South Africa. They migrated from somewhere between today's Benue State and the southeast. I think
yes, the Bantu.
they are not the Bantu. So we are all one. But I do not begrudge people who feel like Nigeria is such a terrible experiment as a nation, as a country. It never became a nation. And as a result, they are looking for smaller spaces where they can thrive, right? But where I have own disagreement is this whole idea that since you have Oduduwa nation, we have prosperity, peace, and justice, which is very important for me as a person. I don't see that happening. Going by the fact that even today, some of the people who have run Nigeria to the ground are Yoruba people. In fact, the Yorubas are known as providing technical services to the leaders of the central Nigeria in the course of destroying Nigeria. Why was Awolowo not able to become the president of Nigeria? It was technical services provided by Yoruba lawyers. One of them just recently died, Chief Akinjide. Why was Abiola not able to become the president of Nigeria? Technical sabotage by Yoruba leaders. So many of them, traditional rulers, military leaders, the Ofife, as he was then late, was part of it. Oladipo Dia, a military general, was part of it. A lot of them, Yoruba people. So until such a time that anybody can convince himself that Yoruba has this puristic, or I mean, Puritans who will not sabotage even though they do our nation. I don't want to blindly canvass for the breakup of Nigeria simply because I have this, idea, or somebody is just pushing me into an idea that, if Nigeria breaks up, tomorrow there will be free education. Because the question I ask is, who are the people governing Lagos, the richest states in Nigeria? Yoruba people. So this the same amount to do us that have put Lagos water as we speak now, with the help of one of the cunniest of us, milking and savaging the state of Lagos, the richest state in Nigeria. Lagos itself, if it could have stood alone as a nation, prosperous nation. Yoruba people are there milking and destroying Lagos. Yoruba people are not even willing to that. So, but they want Nigeria to break up with the
Okay.
hope that suddenly,
Okay.
when we come to Yoruba land, we will
Okay,
all
my
be
comrade.
having Eldorado without
My
addressing
comrade.
first and foremost the role
My
of
comrade.
our people
I
in
am
destroying
having
the continent of
I'm
Africa,
having this
Nigeria as it is now known. That's where my problem is. I don't have this.
energy.
I don't have this enthusiasm that most
Fair
people
enough.
have. That
Fair
the
enough.
youth that not we
I totally
provide.
I totally I totally get you, and I can feel your energy, and I understand, and like every human being, you do have a right to how you feel about any particular situation. You did talk about Pan-Africanism. I am a child of Pan-Africanism. I'm a great Pan-African, and I love the spirit of Pan-Africanism. Sadly, it hasn't worked very well for it's because it carried out the way the Honorable Mosiah Makozgave wanted it to be done. But also the ones that even tried, do you not recollect that they were either killed by the Western world or ousted from from power? We can start naming the Nkrumahs, the Patrice Lumumbas, the list goes on, of great Pan Africans who came back to their continent and wanted to lead their nations and had all those ideals, were very excited, about having a great nation of theirs that will then form a greater African continent. Always, sadly, debilitating factors, sometimes from within, but a lot of times as well from outside. And that was the situation that happened, whereby people, who really loved Africa were either killed or crucified for loving Africa and doing what they wanted to do for their own people. So sometimes maybe you have to first of all look at where you're from. So charity begins at home. That's where I'm going now. Pan Africa is the bigger picture. It is the ideal. It's where we would love to be, because Africa has all the components to become the United States of Africa if it is done well. But each of the African nations, if you look at us, all have their own different downsides, challenges, bad leadership, equally bad followership. The list continues. But we still can't say because of that we're going to allow things just to go, because nobody is stagnant. We have to continue to evolve and revolve and seek for ways to make the world as we know it, as our world, as Yoruba or Odudua, our world as Nigerians, our world as Africans, to make it better, not only for ourselves, but for the coming generation. You know why? And I'm sure you know why. Posterity will ask us, when it was your turn, what did you do? So if you are not very much an advocate of the Yoruba nation, as you've expressed, from the way things are going now, I'm thinking, okay, what does Comrade have in mind? What is it that you have in mind? We remember at least quite a number of the youths that follow you and like you and seem to be expressly encouraged by the kind of things that you have said you would want to see, especially if you were given that chance to become president. They would also not forget that there was a time that you equally supported Muhammadu Buhari, the current president of Nigeria. So are you saying that he did not do well, or he is not even
I
doing what you felt he would do when you campaigned? Because there are we have a lot of young people watching and they want to know. And I'm
no,
reading this one, I'm actually
I
reading from questions.
I appreciate. Okay, I appreciate you saying that, but again, your premise is wrong, completely false. You have used certain words to describe me that are incorrect. One of it was that I campaigned for Buhari. That's false. Princess, never campaigned for Buhari. Never. There's no when someone campaigns for somebody, he must have taken a number of steps. Either to endorsing in an article, attend a rally, or send a
Okay.
message, either voice notes to anybody to say, please,
Okay.
this is my candidate for this election.
Wrong choice of
Vote
word.
for the person.
Wrong choice
So
of word.
that
Wrong choice
shows
of
you
word.
that
And I apologize.
completely wrong.
Sorry, comrade. That
Yes.
was the wrong choice of word on my part, and I retract that. But
Yes.
you did seem to be
So
in support. You seemed to be in support of having
no,
him come in and have
no,
Mr. Jonathan
no.
out.
What I what I was what I did in 2015, it's always done my
Yes.
entire life. Campaign as an individual for good governance, to use whatever platform and opportunity I have to work towards transitions that could make the country better. But never in my life. The first time I voted in an
Okay.
election was in 2019. I'd never even registered to vote before in my life. So what you are saying now could also be attributed to Jonathan when Yaradua was sick and nobody wanted to hand over power to Jonathan because he was a minority from the Niger Delta region and he was vice president. The actions we took at that time, exposing Yaradua's illness, even organizing a people's parliament, including where I met you in 2009 in London, where we had a gathering of Nigerians. 2009. You just reminded me
Yeah.
before that we met
Yes.
there. I don't remember that we
Yes.
endorsed Jonathan coming to power. No. We just said that the country, Nigeria,
No.
needed to move forward, and somebody who is sick give way for someone who is healthy, right? So the and I
Absolutely.
remember that event had Wole Soyinka, he had Nuhu Ribadu, he had a lot of
Yes.
Nigerians in attendance, a lot of people. Our central interest was for our nation, Nigeria, not to be stuck because a person was sick and they were hiding the illness from the public. Who benefited from our organizing in London in those days? Jonathan. This same Jonathan we are talking about was the biggest beneficiary. I spent my own money to go to London. Nobody sponsored me. I paid for my hotel in London. Nobody sponsored me, but we had that gathering. It was a massive gathering. It's still on YouTube to today. Things that I said there in the country at that time. Jonathan benefited from it. When Jonathan came to power, and we started seeing corruption, including the biggest of their corrupt masquerade is hiding in London today. Alison, what's that lady who is in the UK, who couldn't come home? The petroleum minister at that time. We kept writing about it.
Madwike.
Some of the corruption, yes, the corruption we exposed at that time, even UK courts, some of them in Italian courts, some of them are going to be happening in Netherlands. The corruption of that period is so massive. we reported upon it, the opposition, of course, as they usually do, would take whatever the media does and run with it. And Sahel Reporters, which was our media concern, was very, very powerful at that time and still powerful till today, doing the same thing. You understand what I mean? So, for anybody to then say that, oh, Sowore campaign for Buhari, I think is what
no,
I
I had
represent,
don't
what
let's
I've
go
always
back because
represented in my
I already retracted. I already retracted. That was a wrong use of word.
yes.
I already apologize. I retracted that. Okay, but even though you're saying now that we do know that the level of corruption during the Jonathan Goodluck era was quite enormous. We've seen worse now as well. During Jonathan's time, I don't think there was any snake swallowing billions of money or monkeys. I mean, now it's on the ridiculous. It's very ridiculous. We also know that during the military eras, a lot of money was carted out of Nigeria. That some even were able to buy themselves islands. So for you to be able to buy a whole island, that's a lot of money. Even one we can see now is because Nigeria's naira has dwindled again in value. But if we were to change the money that was spent to buy those properties that those soldiers had, my goodness, Nigeria is really a starving child, as it were. But what I feel is
That's
maybe
correct.
we should go to the questions that will be coming from our audience and our viewers. Mr. Ade, I would like you to please open up the portal for the phone calls so that we'll be able to allow our viewers to ask the comrade some questions. Hello? Do we have a call that's coming?
Okay,
Hello?
my name is Wale Adenikomi. I'm calling from Brooklyn, New York.
Hello, sir.
I know that.
Thank you so much.
What Sowore stand for is a one Nigeria, but that is beginning to be doubted from the event that is going on. And my question now is that, what do you see as a comrade? How do you see Nigeria beyond 2023? Will Nigeria still stand from all this agitation from left and right? That is my question, please.
Thank you so much, sir. Over to you, comrade Sowore. Did you hear his question?
Let me. So I had this question, and I could not to be speaking for me
Okay.
because I can speak for myself. This idea of, that I'm standing for one Nigeria is also not correct. What I stand for is a just, fair, and equitable space for living that promotes and respects the dignity of people who live in this country, regardless of where they come from. I have said it, and I repeatedly said it, that I don't know where people also get the impression from that Nigeria is standing. Nigeria is not standing. Nigeria is wobbling. Nigeria is crumbling right now. And the only way Nigeria can become united or become one is if there is justice enjoyed by all of the component factions or parts of Nigeria. It cannot happen by way of a decree. It cannot happen by propaganda. So I'm working for a just Nigeria. Wherever I work, if we wake up tomorrow and this current space called Nigeria, geographic country called Nigeria, no longer, exists, I will still be doing what I do now. I will be fighting for justice, and it's the reason why I want people who are too overly optimistic about Oduduwa or Biafra or wherever you might find yourself, that you'll be so shocked at what will happen if you don't prepare yourself. You might find yourself praying to run back to the Nigeria that you hated so much. Because the same characters that are within Nigeria today who are running Nigeria to the ground are going to fall into their various geographical entities if we break up. And they will show you, as I say, they will show you pepper. I can tell you that. I know what happened to me when I was detained. Some of the people who were rooting for my detention were Yoruba people. People like Fayemi, who was telling, people who met him that I should go and renounce revolution now. Otherwise, I will die in detention. That's a pro-democracy activist who used to run a radio station, a pirate radio station, who, because he's a governor, believes that my challenging Buhari and asking for a revolution in the country is a death sentence. That I'm trying. They were the ones who were molding the idea that I was planning to overthrow the government violently and I should be dealt with. The journalists on TVC clearly say that they are Buhari people. Those are the problems, not Sowore. Sowore is for justice. Anywhere anywhere this may fall, I will always be for justice. I am just saying that if I have in terms of preference, I prefer a bigger space, a bigger country, a bigger continent where there's justice, there's equity and fairness, and that we can create an egalitarian society because I've been to, probably part of my optimism comes from having traveled internationally and been in the places like US, where I know that there's diversity of culture, language, and there's some level of justice. Even though that is debatable, people find it a more livable space. Even though it's a huge country, you can fly from one part of the US to the other, and 7 hours you have not landed. If you start flying in Nigeria from the extreme end of Nigeria to the other in 1 hour 30 minutes, you have landed. That's not even up to some US states, and there are 50 states in the US. But our problem is that we are being misgoverned. We have fish people, we have terrible leaders. Leaders come from every tribe, they come up from every religion, they come from every ethnic group. And they are wicked, they are incompetent, they are heartless. So when you wake up and you are thinking about this, just remember that I told you that when the Oduduwa Republic becomes a reality, you will still need a revolution to have peace, justice, and fair play in that Oduduwa Republic. Otherwise, these guys will submerge you in the Oduduwa Republic. We tend to forget these things very quickly. Yorubas have their own discrimination. Their Egbas feel superior to. We even have our names for ourselves. Some people are Araoke, Araudo, because we have a unique, character of sometimes looking down on people because they are poor, because they are disabled, because they come from certain backgrounds, do not really rhyme with, our elitism.
I think we have another call, so I'll just give you a few seconds to wrap up the response to that first caller.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, my name is Bookie Tyler.
Thank you so much. Good evening, caller. Please.
I just want to ask Mr. Sowore, do you not really think it's better that you side the Oduduwa Republic, because the way Nigeria is, it can't work and it won't work. It's not worked for 60 years. So it's better that you actually put all your energy with Oduduwa Republic. Thank you.
Over to you. Thank you, caller.
I think I've addressed it. Where I put my energy is dependent on my experience and my understanding of life, and as well a future outlook into where a lot of us who are even our republic today have abandoned our Nigerian citizenship completely. The country, whether the Oduduwa part or the Fulani part or the Niger, we've left the country completely. We have seceded a long time ago. So I'm not surprised that this idea that Nigeria should break up is gaining currency. But when you look at it deeply, for people like us who have engaged with the Nigerian system or state for such a long time, we just have differences of opinion and ideas that we think are grounded in experience and knowledge. And that is not to say that people who feel like Nigeria should break up don't have. I just don't buy the optimism that if we wake up and create the Oduduwa Republic, that it will be Eldorado. I can tell you that that's not true, and that's not going to happen.
Thank you, comrade. There's another caller, I think, lined up at the moment. Mr. Director, can you put in the next caller, please? Good evening,
My
ma'am.
question is,
Your name and where you're
do
calling
you
from?
believe you can win election? That do you believe you can win
Can
election in this current Nigeria? My number one question. My number two, when you win the election, I know you cannot spend more than 8 years in this current Nigeria in your governor. Do you think you can correct the whole mistake that is on ground since 60 years back? Do you think you can correct the mistake for just 8 years? And you remember that after your 8 years, you are still going to stand up and another person is still coming on that seat again. We cannot continue like this. That is my question. Just that two questions. Do you think you can win the election? And do you think you can correct the whole mistake for the past 60 years now? Do you think you can correct it for just 8 years? When you stand up, another corruption person is still going to sit down there again. Do you think you can achieve that aim? That is my question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. I'll just reply with an analogy or my experience with free education. It took a whole of 5 years to give me free secondary education. 5 years, right? We used to do 5 years in school. And the foundation he laid in 1980, they brought all the secondary schools. As the reason some of us are able to speak English today, go to the university and become self-sustaining. Just 5 years, right? So, but I will answer the question about the election. Elections are events that, when they are done the appropriate way, anybody with sense, anybody with ideas, anybody who is clear-headed can win an election. The question you are trying to ask, I'm sure, is would Nigeria ever have free and fair elections, right? To the point that good people can win. That is where the debate is coming from, and that's where that question is coming from. But for those who live in Oduduwa nation, this question applies to you. Can you win an election in an Oduduwa state today without killing somebody, without bribing election officials, without conniving with the police, the military? Those questions are applicable to a nation where everything has broken down. Even today, to win the election as a student union leader, if you don't have connection with the governor, you can't. But my position, which I've canvassed, is that when you want to win election, you just don't wait for the event. There are a series of things that has to happen. Sometimes we have to put up a fight. And that fight is the reason why, as soon as the election was over in 2019, we started agitating for a revolution in Nigeria. Because we understand, and our colleagues understand, that without a revolutionary movement in the country, we won't have anything left. It's just a matter of time. So 8 years, as you ask, 8 years can get a lot of things accomplished. Lot of things accomplished. You can finish a 300 kilometer or 500 kilometer, 1,500 kilometers highway in 8 years. If you're serious, you can do the same thing with train lines, as long as you are not stealing, which is what has stagnated Nigeria's progress till today. So the constitution that gave you 8 years to run a country, understand that within that 8 years, a lot of things can be achieved. It's the same reason why Americans have 8 years in power for a president. And every president after even 4 years can tell you what they have done with regards to healthcare, social infrastructure, physical infrastructure, with regards to agriculture. How long does it take, for goodness sake, to grow rice? It doesn't even take a year. So in a year, you can have 2 cycles to grow rice and corn. You can have 2 circles to build roads. So I understand the reason why people doubt these things because, like I said, for 40 years now, people who are 40 years old and below, I've never seen a Nigeria that worked before. But those of you who are outside, ask yourself, how long did it take for them to build the neighborhood around you? How long did it take for them to build a new line in the London Underground? What is the plan for another? And what are your leaders doing in those places that made you feel comfortable to stay there? Do they do them forever? Because when you listen to people here, the leaders here, other people, they'll tell you, oh, Rome wasn't built in a
I think
day.
there's
That
another
is the
caller.
excuse. But the answer is, was Rome also built forever? 8 years is a lot of time to get a lot of things done in Nigeria, to right a lot of wrongs.
Okay, thank you. I believe
I'm
that
listening.
caller
You
must
said there's
have
another
gotten
caller.
her response. There's another caller. Mr.
Okay.
Director, can you kindly put the next caller through, please? Thank you.
Good
Good
afternoon.
evening. Welcome to.
I have 2 questions for Mr. Sowore. As we all know, in Nigeria, we have a lot of ethnic groups, and the major ones are the Yoruba, the Igbo, and the Hausas. How can one out of these 3 ethnic groups be saying that they are born to rule? I think it is have 2 other ethnic groups. So what do you say to that? And my second question is this. You said that all those cadres that are eating up our country, if we get to the Dua Republic, they're going to go there. I'll just say this. If we get to the Dua Republic, we know who is who, and we know their houses, we know their family. I think we can contact their family if they are doing the same thing, and go and face them and tell them we don't want them. So I think if we are more like in a small country, we know who is who, and we can be able to straighten up our leaders. That's my question.
Did you hear her?
Your question
Comrade?
is more like a comment. I said the question is more like a comment. She's saying that if there's a smaller country, you know everybody's houses. There's also a flip side to it that the people, the bad guys in that country will also know your houses and they can come there and kill you and nothing will happen. What I should also say to that caller, with due respect, is that the governor of the Yoruba states today are Yorubas. Have you gone to their houses when they steal your money, when they refuse to build roads, build schools, they don't pay doctors, they don't pay workers? What have we done to them? At the state level, what have we done to them? Have we been able to practicalize the same thing we are talking about for state governors who owe us response? If you go to an average Yoruba state today, the 5 states in Yoruba, Ekiti, Ondo, Ogun, Oyo, Osun, and I think Lagos being the 6th, right? Those states, the things that they are doing wrong, have we been able to right them? Are they not, the governors of those states, are they Fulanis? Are they not Yorubas? They are Yorubas now. Why are we not holding the same people? If you go to an average Yoruba state now, they don't even allow local government elections to hold. Even what the law says that you must hold elections in every local government. So the atrocities that our own people are committing against us today, what are we doing about them? The Oni of Ife brought Chinese miners to drive away people in Yoruba land. What have we done about it? Has anybody gone to protest to the palace? The only woman who talks about the Oni of Ife, she was sued in, I think, in somewhere in the UK. Has anybody supported her against the powerful? I'm just telling you this because my own experience is not an emotional experience. But I agree with you, and you can have this on record, that it's to believe that this current Nigeria for anybody. But I'm just saying that the current Nigeria is just not based in Abuja. It's based everywhere, in every state house across Nigeria, including our very beautiful Dudua land.
Thank you. Thank you, comrade. I'll take that last statement as a jibe at our Odudua nation. We have another caller.
Yorùbá lè mi fẹ́ sọ tòrọ́ ọmọ Yorùbá ni mí, ọmọ Odùduwà ni mí. Mo dẹ̀ lérò pé Mr. Omoyele Sowore, ọmọ Yorùbá ni wọ́n gẹ́gẹ́ bí àlàyé tán ṣe wọ́n dẹ̀ ń gbọ́ mi. Ìbéèrè tẹ́mi fẹ́ béèrè.
Mo ń gbọ́ yín sá.
Wọ́n ní ká má béèrè ìbéèrè méjì. Ìbéèrè mẹ́ta ló wà wájú mo fẹ́ béèrè. Wọ́n máa béèrè ẹyọ kan. Kejì a máa wo abá ṣe máa kọ́ tá a dọ̀dọ̀ wọn. Èyí tí mo fẹ́ béèrè ni pé ǹjẹ́ pẹ̀lú bí ọ̀rọ̀ Nàìjíríà ṣe rí lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ yìí, tá a bá kọ̀ tá a bọ̀ ọ̀nà ká kúrò nínú Nàìjíríà yìí ká dá dúró gẹ́gẹ́ bí ilẹ̀ olómìnira, pẹ̀lú bí nǹkan ṣe ń lọ yìí, ǹjẹ́ fúnṣọ wà fún àwa ọmọ Odùduwà àtàwọn ọmọ wa tó ń bọ̀ lẹ́yìn pẹ̀lú bí nǹkan ṣe ń lọ lórí ọ̀rọ̀ tá a gba òmìnira? Ǹjẹ́ ẹ lérò yìí pé a ní ọjọ́ iwájú tó dáa fún àwọn ọmọ wa tó ń bọ̀? Ìbéèrè tí mo fẹ́ béèrè nìyẹn.
Torí Yorùbá lẹ fi bí mí, èmi ló dẹ̀ fẹ́ dá yín lóhùn. Yorùbá mi lè má jà gbé tiyín, àmọ́ nǹkan tá a sọ fún àwọn èèyàn wa ni pé àwọn tó ń kó wa lẹ́rú wọn kì í ṣe Haúsá nìkan, wọn kì í ṣe Ìgbò, àwa ara wa tá a jọmọ Yorùbá. Láàárín wa a ní àwọn kẹ́ni-má-ní, àwọn àgbà lọ́wọ́ mẹ́rì, àwọn tó ń pani, tó ń báni dárò, wọ́n wà láàárín Yorùbá. Kí là ń ṣe ń pa wọn? Tẹ bá lè gbára yín lọ́wọ́ àwọn yẹn, lára àwọn tó jẹ́ gómìnà yín ni o, tó ń jẹ́ local government chairman, àwọn tó ń ṣe lọ́balọ́ba ni o, àwọn tó ń ṣèjòyè ni o, àtàwọn tó ń ṣe tó tẹ̀jọ́ lórí ìjọ tí wọ́n ń kó yín lẹ́rú, tó ń kó wa lẹ́rú, ṣé a ti gbára wa lẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ wọn? Nítorí tá a bá fẹ́ ja ìjà yìí, aláti mọ ẹni tó jọ́ta wa o. Tá a bá mọ àwọn tá à ń pè lọ́tà, tá a bá tó jẹ́ pé àkóńṣe àwọn kankan ní ọ̀tá tó le jù, tó jẹ́ pé àwọn amọ̀nibánidárò láàrin ara wa ló jọ́ta wa, tá a bá dojú kọ wọn à ń tanra wa jẹ. Nǹkan tá à ń sọ fún ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà, yín ọmọdé tó jọmọ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá káàárọ̀ jíire ni pé tá a bá ronú dáadáa ká tó máa ja ìjà yìí, a máa pàdé ara wa ní ọwọ́ àwọn tí à ń sá fún nínú Nàìjíríà. Wọ́n máa tẹ̀lé wa wá sílẹ̀ Odùduwà. Ìyẹn nǹkan tí àlàyé tèmi ṣe fún ẹ̀yin èèyàn wa ní pé kẹ má gbàgbé wípé wọ́n ní tílé bá tòrò àwọn ọmọ àlè bẹ̀ ni ò tí ì dà. Àwọn ọmọ àlè tiwa wọ́n ti jọba o, wọ́n ti doníjòyè, wọ́n ti dolówó. Nǹkan tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ àlàyé tí mò ń ṣe mò ń ṣe lórí ètò yìí náà nìyẹn. Mo dẹ̀ rò pé ẹgbọ́n mi ṣe ń ṣàríyàn tó yé yín. Ọ̀rọ̀ mi ò jù bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ.
Okay, we're going to take the next call quickly, yes, sir. Thank you very much. Caller, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Shegun calling from Birmingham. Please, Mr. Sowore, I actually appreciate you and I appreciate the moderator. I want you. Hello. Yeah, please. I want you to actually understand something. We know Nigeria will never work, and it will not work in the future. You coming to tell us about Nigeria, all this thing, it's not gonna work. We know the time we were born. Please, Mr. Proper Yoruba, we know how to deal with our leaders. Leave them for us. That is what I want to say. We know how to deal with them. Under this structure, we can't hold those people because they have been protected by the federal police. They have been protected by the federal army. There is no way we can handle them. But under Odudua police, we can gun them down easily. I know how to get a governor. I can slap a governor under Odudua structure. But under this structure, I can't do that. You can't bring somebody from Meduguri to come and protect me in Shagamu or in Ijebode.
Caller, your time is off, please. We're going to go to the next one. Yeah? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, I like the enthusiasm from that brother who was asking the question. You can slap the governor. You can't slap anybody. If you are not slapping governor now, you can't slap governor even in Odua Republic. In fact,
exactly.
Don't just perish the thought. Even when we had regional governments, right? There was a governor, I think it was in Oyo State, who had an issue with a guy. And Wole Soyinka wrote about it. And he broke the guy's leg. He asked him, I think the guy was dancing with his wife accidentally at a party. You know, I think this is the governor of the governor who was the father of the former governor of Ekiti State. He was the military governor at that time. He had them to go and torture the guy. The guy was taken to London. They had to amputate the leg. Yes, somebody just accidentally was dancing with his wife or girlfriend at a party. So I like the enthusiasm that our people have in this Udua thing, but we have also a duty to historically remind ourselves that you can't slap a governor. In fact, maybe you are in London today. That's why we are talking. You can't slap Silo in Nigeria today. They will break your leg. They will kill you, and nothing will happen. Nobody will even be courageous enough to pick your dead body. Even in Yoruba land, go to Lagos. When I was campaigning, it was. Let me say this before you go. Before you move on. When I was campaigning for presidency, it was easier for me to campaign in the north than to campaign in Surulere in Lagos, my own Yoruba land. They claim that the area belonged to them, that is an APC zone. And these are Yoruba APC operatives, not Hausas. So they held me to ransom in Surulere for 30 minutes, asking me to give them 200,000 before they released me. I told them, you can do whatever you want. It was after a while that they left me. But the guy who invited us, who is a Yoruba person, was made to pay 80,000 right there on the spot to collect another 150,000 naira just because we came to campaign in Surulere. Some of you must have seen my video now where we went to Lekki side. The same thing. We went to see a traditional ruler. As soon as we left the place, they held us to ransom. I went to the Oni of Ife. You saw the treatment that was meted to me there. They said they would behead me inside the palace. So am I not supposed to be a human being? Forget about whether I'm Yoruba or not. All this enthusiasm, with due respect, we will slap our own government. You can't slap nothing. If you can't slap now, you won't be able to slap then. Just understand that. Let's have the understanding that wherever we find ourselves, we must be fighters to get freedom, real freedom. That's my position.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, comrade. I just wanted to add quickly when you said that nobody can slap anybody, which is a fact, because even as Yoruba people or people of Udua extraction, one of the tenets that we have in our culture and tradition is respect for one another, and particularly for authority. As even to any other fellow human being, I don't think it's something that we do as our culture, to just go about slapping people because we disagree with their behavior or how they speak. But like you said, I think the gentleman was just very full of enthusiasm, just as you rightly observed. I think we have one more caller before we go back again to our own questions here in the house. Mr. Director, can we put in the next caller?
An hour and a half. We are 2 hours now. Yes.
Well, maybe people just love to, engage with you and listen to what you have to say. And you do know that you've been quiet for a while, especially to us in the UK.
Yeah.
So they're very happy to listen to you and thank you so much. Mr. Director, can we go back to the studio, or do we still have one more caller that I could see was trying to get through?
Hey, you have to speak up, sir.
Okay, hello, Mr. Sowore. Nice speaking with you. My name is Babalola, calling from Germany.
Thank you, Mr. Babalola. Mr. Sowore is listening to you.
I've been listening to the program since. This is number one question I want to ask you. How do you want to manage the order of the Federation?
What?
Can we hear that question again? Mr. Director, I cannot hear, and
Just one
Comrade
second.
Sowore
I'm going
cannot
to call
hear.
him back from another number because we can't hear the questions because the people are just calling in. Yeah, just 1 second, sir.
There are too many calls. I understand. Okay. Sorry, comrade. We're just trying to get that caller back. There
Not
are
a
too many.
problem. Not a
Everybody wants to
problem.
ask.
Yes, I'm here.
So whilst we are waiting for that caller to come in, just very briefly, how do you think we've responded to the COVID situation as a nation? I know the Western world, a number of them have failed woefully, but Nigeria seems to have not so high a number of casualties, but that might be because not many people were tested. But how do you think, because you are there in the home
Yeah,
ground, how do you think we've
it's a function of testing. It's a function of testing. I don't know that Nigeria has tested up 20,000 people as of this time. I don't know. It's a function of testing. It's a function of inefficiency. I personally tested for COVID on Tuesday last week. I'm disclosing to you on this because there was some worry around me that some person I could have been exposed. So I went and tested for COVID. Since last Tuesday, I was supposed to get the results in 24 hours. It's 48 hours, no results. Up till now, I haven't gotten the results. So you can imagine what is happening around the country. They might test you. Maybe when they came, they ran out of test kits because I wanted them to test everybody who was around me. They could only test a few of us. Came back the next day, ran out of test kits, and we haven't gotten the results more than 6 days after. As I'm speaking with you, today's Sunday. It was since last Tuesday, no results. So they are not testing. Even when they test, who knows what they do? It's try and error. So we just here. Let's just hope nothing. Maybe our immune system is a bit better than that of Europe and America, and maybe I don't know what factors are intervening on our behalf. On our behalf, the rate is low. I don't know, but just have been lucky. It's not as if we did anything different. COVID Nigeria without leadership. You remember I took the president. Yeah, it took the president more than even a month to figure out how to pronounce COVID. He used to call it COVID 19, and eventually he addressed. So yeah. So nothing.
Well, does it also
plain.
When we started the conversation, I was asking you a question about the leaders and the led, and I'm going to go back again. Don't you feel that sometimes, because of what we just said now about the current leader, don't you feel that a people deserve the leaders that they vote for? Because a lot of times we are craving for good leadership.
My conversation today centers around that particular comment. You see, why do you think everybody wants to exit from Nigeria? Leadership, right? If Nigeria was functioning as a nation state that takes care of its people, whether you are Southern or Yoruba or Hausa, people would not be agitating to leave. They would, in fact, people would pretend that they are not Yorubas or Hausas because it was convenient for them. When we get outside of the country, right, we don't care about these things. I'll give a very simple example. Right? The number of people, the higher percentage of people who were opposed to Brexit, go and find out in the UK. They were the anti-Brexit people. They don't want Britain to leave the EU. Yoruba people, they were calling me. Some of them even said that I should make it part of my speech that Yorubas don't want this. So
I
that
think
tells
your
you
next
that.
caller is ready.
Yes.
Thank you so
Good
much.
day.
I think your next caller is ready. Good evening, sir. Can you tell us your name and where you're calling from?
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, yeah.
Yeah, my name is Obafemi. Yeah, hello, good afternoon. My name is Obafemi. I just
Please
want to
ask your
contribute to the program going. I have a few questions and suggestions for Mr. Sowore.
You got 10 seconds left, Uncle. Ask your question. They listening to you.
Yeah, I just want to ask Mr. Sowore, what is his plan for the this feeling for the Oduduwa Republic? What is his stake, his belief for this Oduduwa Republic?
Uncle, are you just joining the call? You've answered that question.
Yeah.
Go back to the thing and then you can listen to that one. I'm sorry for that, Uncle. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, sir. Next caller, please.
Okay.
Go ahead, your name and where you're calling from.
Okay.
30 seconds from now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Am I on the program?
Yes, they can hear you. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, you are.
Hello, Mr. Sowore. How are you? How's everything?
If you say how are you won't have the time. You got 20 seconds left.
Oh, sorry. My own point is, I just want to know that you mentioned before that that Awolowo spent 5 years to do a lot of things. That 8 years is enough, and you realize that you are not the only person that will do it. You have House of Reps and you have two tiers of government, presidential or whatever. I forgot. So if you think it's only you, you have to remember that others, if you think you want to do it, what of others? If others not want to join you to do it, so my point is you have to take it very well. Sorry, you have to think it very well.
Thank you very much. Caller, your time is up. Bye-bye.
So
Over to you.
You're right. No one person can do it. In fact, what is very interesting about was that when I had free education in 1980, Awolowo was not the president. He was just the candidate of the UPN, the Unity Party of Nigeria. It was just one policy. So imagine if Awolowo was president for 5 years, for 4 years, between 1979 and 83, what he could have done across, and what made Awolowo want to be president was because he wanted to expand his across the country. So, but your question is, am I the only person who can do this? Definitely not. The president of Nigeria today is the chief recruitment officer, human resources officer for the country. I'm not the only person who feels this way. You feel that way too. So when I'm president, I will look for the best hands. People are shouting about Obama today. I tell you, Obama is just the face of his policies. He doesn't even know sometimes what goes on. But if they build a good school or they have a policy, they will fly him down there. They know he knows how to talk his way through it. Sometimes he bullshit through it. You love him. You want to kiss his lips, and that's how to inspire people. The president of the country is not necessarily the person who knows how to do everything. You cannot do everything. It's not possible. But you have the capability and you have the acumen or the knowledge to run the system in a way that you attract the best to work with you. And when they work with you, they will make things happen. There are doctors there in the UK. There are lawyers there in the UK who are Nigerians who want to come. There are people who want to come to this country and work for free just to make Nigeria a better place. But they can't come into a system when you are dealing with leaders who are selfish, who have no idea how the world is working, who don't even know their left from their right. So a lot of our colleagues have come home and left in disgrace. So these are things that we must understand holistically as we are dealing with this question. Is that Sowore can't do it alone. Everybody knows that. It's not possible. But I should be able to attract some of the best. And I must be able to stamp a legacy country. And regardless of what we say about even people from other parts of the country, it's not everybody that is a Fulani that is a bad person, for God's sake. It's not everybody that's Igbo. The only good people in the world are not Yorubas. And not everybody in Yoruba land is good. Also, as we have seen, with regards to, even as I've told the story of my struggles in Yoruba land. So, because I went to school at the University of Lagos. I didn't go to school in the north. So everything I'm telling you is based on my experience growing up.
There's one more call. There's one more call for you.
Good afternoon. This is Ade calling from London.
There's one more call for you before we come back to the studio. Thank you so much for
that the Nigerian construction has failed and has failed completely. Even if he's thinking that he's going to be a president, the current structure of that construction favors only the North. And because of that, nothing, even if he ends up being a president, nothing will be done. That's number one. Number two, under this construction, the Yoruba, the Southwest, have been unable to secure the lives and property because the herdsmen that are killing in our forests are from the North. Okay? So the North has destabilized and destroyed the security apparatus, making it impossible for Yoruba land and other southern regions to be safe, to be protected. And that's why we are really chanting for our Oduduwa nation. Regarding the politicians and the leaders that have been, lying to us and leading, we know how to deal with them. We will definitely deal with them by the power of Almighty God. I will only advise Mr. Sowore to join this struggle before it's too late. We love you. You are an Oduduwa son, but it's better now for you to join the Oduduwa train, to contribute your skills, to help us to be able to build that justice that you dream of in Oduduwa nation. Thank you very much.
Would you like to respond to that?
Yes, and I take this as the last question because I have other engagements also.
That's actually the last question. As I said, that is the last question.
But I love our people. I love the enthusiasm. I keep hearing this word thing, and then that last caller just summarized our helplessness too, because he said we know how to deal with the leaders. God help us. Hasn't there been God since our leaders have been dealing with us? So God is just suddenly going to come now because we are going to have Yoruba land. It's part of this is how we express our frustration. Again, as my final submission on this matter, Princess, I am for justice. I will work for the interest of any just, fair, and egalitarian nation in the world. Be it Yoruba nation, be it Nigeria, be it Africa as a nation. That's my dream, to have the entire African continent as one nation, integrated, prosperous, progressive, and powerful. But what I don't fall for, and will never fall for, is to live in a fool's paradise. And this is my final submission, that just the creation of a Yoruba nation will automatically solve our problems. I'm saying no, it won't, because it has never happened before. What will solve our problem are citizens that are active, fearless, courageous. And if we have such citizens today, we will solve Nigeria's problem to the point that the Yoruba nation we are looking for will exist as a humanity in this current sphere. I'm a space person. I just love having a big space. And one last thing I will say is that when they were creating states, they took Osun from Oyo State. It took them 23 years to finish their boundary. boundary disputes. In fact, I think some of them are still ongoing. It took them almost the same amount of time to resolve how to fund just one university, Ladoke Akintola University, was closed down for 7 years. I mean, he had problem for years because the governor of Oyo State and the governor of Osun State refused to fund just a college that belonged to the two of them, a university, Ladoke Akintola University, wasted the time of their children. The person who refused to fund it was a Yoruba man who recently died, the former governor of Oyo State, who called himself constituted authority. Yes. But while he said that there's no money to fund that place, he bought himself a $1.3 million house in Maryland in 2016, convert $1.3 million and give it to Ladoke Akintola at that time. The strikes that paralyzed the schools for 7 years would not have happened. Who killed Bola Ige? We don't know. But who sabotaged the trial? Our people. Who were the people who connived to deny Abiola his mandate? We know them. Our people. So, Yorubas, ẹ jẹ́ ká ronú, ó dàárọ̀.
Thank you so much. Well, yeah, Yoruba. Àwọn bàbá Herbert Ogunde wọ́n ti kọ́ lórin kí Yorùbá ronú. And it's very interesting because our language is so rich and very powerful with so much depth in meaning. And we believe, we have to embrace what we say, not just say it and put it in the air. We believe, embrace what we say as Yoruba people, because everything we say has deep meanings, just as you rightfully said. We're going to let you go very shortly. One more person wants to ask you a question, and that is it's one of our team members, so that's not somebody from outside. Wants to ask you a quick question, and I'm just going to then thank you and then bid you good night. So, Mr. Director, you can go ahead with your quick question.
First of all, I want to thank Mr. Sowore for coming today. It's just a straightforward question. How do you intend to manage the seventh order of the Federation? The seventh order of the Federation. How did you intend to manage that, sir? Thank you.
If you don't mind, can you tell me what you mean by the seventh order of the Federation? Just assume that I'm an illiterate when it comes to that.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have to call you back later on and talk this one with you privately, because otherwise we're going to get into trouble. I just want to see how you want to manage it. I didn't want to expose the seventh order of the Federation.
Right. No problem.
No. Thank you very much,
maybe
sir.
the seventh order that I know as well, of which a private conversation is probably better. I just don't want to sound ignorant if I'm not sure of what you're asking.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Director. I want to thank our special guest today on an audience, the Rise Conversations, our comrade Omoyele Sowore. As we know, Mr. Sowore is coming from a lot of beautiful backgrounds. As first as an activist during his student days, he also went into proper activism at university. He dabbled into journalism, set up Sahara Reporters, went into investigative journalism and broadcasting online information about Nigeria, particularly outside Nigeria at the time. He then went back to Nigeria and decided to also do and actually stood for or made his intention to stand for president. Mr. Sowore has a lot of followers, but he's also shared with us his own variety of things concerning Nigeria, concerning leadership, concerning that is us, the citizens, concerning I think what we didn't talk about much is the young people, which we'll probably discuss some other time when we have the opportunity to have him on our platform. But he also let us know quite candidly, his own opinion and his thoughts, how we can move forward not only as Nigeria but as Africa. He's more of a Pan-African, and he's more of us have Nigeria as a nation. He doesn't particularly favor us having an Odua nation, but that is personal to him. Opinions are personal to everybody. He's been very, very nice to us with his time, because we did say 2 hours, and I think we've totally overrun 2 hours that we booked with him. So I'd love to thank you very much, comrade, for being with us. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for questions, not yourself, but also from our viewers. I just want to say 2 things. One, when should we expect next in the UK after all the COVID wahala has gone down? And number 2, what is your last word, to our viewers?
My last word, first question is when I'll be in the UK. Maybe I have 2 situations that I started this program with. I am in Abuja, held down by the Nigerian government with a bail condition that restricts my movement outside of Abuja. And secondly, of course, we still have the COVID situation. As soon as both are resolved, one of my priority places to visit will be the UK. It's where I can talk to most of you now. It'd be great to unite. I also want to thank Heritage TV. I decided to do this and give you as much time as possible, because when I was in the UK last time, I was supposed to have an interview with you, and it didn't happen for some reason. Last one, I to say thank you all, and revolution now.
Revolution now. Okay.
Good night.
I believe that is a very pregnant statement. I think that's a very pregnant statement. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Warm regards to your family. And please keep well and stay safe. And hopefully you'll be out and about and able to step on the next plane to come to the UK. God bless you. Aluta continua.
Victoria Tata.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We've been speaking with, again, as I said, Comrade Omoyele Sowore, who is somebody that quite a number of people know him, but especially for the young people, that I love them to also get into the knowledge of who they are and what happens in the country that they're from, that is Nigeria and Yorubas as well. Mr. was, as a young person in university, he was a student leader. He will also became a very versatile activist. He's a social commentator. He took that when he went to the United States for his master's program. He also took that on board and used technology to go into reporting what was going on, both outside Nigeria and inside Nigeria, on his platform called Sahara Reporters. He became an investigative journalist as well. And he used to take on the governments of the day, different leaders, people in government, etc. And then he also went into politics himself and decided to run for president. He still obviously has very great hopes for the Nigerian nation itself, and therefore we will be watching him and seeing what next is up his sleeve. Thank you for joining us, all of you, for your support of myself and the Right Conversations, but most especially of our platform, HATV Multimedia. God bless you all. Have an amazing weekend. Do keep well and stay safe. Take care of yourselves and each other. And until next time, God bless.
ó ti yá.
gbogbo aláyẹyẹ pẹ̀lú ní pati àti ilé ìjọsìn ẹ fẹ́ ṣe polówó.
Heritage
TV
la
Heritage TV
wọ́n bẹ nílùú London o.
Heritage TV
wọ́n fọwọ́ wọn sọ̀yà o.
Heritage TV.
ẹ̀yin aráàlú London ǹjẹ́ ẹ ti gbọ́ pé iléeṣẹ́ Heritage TV tún ti gbé àrà tuntun yọ o. gbogbo àríyá yín pátápátá la ó máa bá yín polongo rẹ̀ jákèjádò gbogbo ayé ká máa ṣayẹyẹ ní London ká sì máa wò l'Amẹ́ríkà ní Nàìjíríà àti káàkiri àgbáyé lẹ́sẹ̀kẹsẹ̀ àti lójú kan náà bó jẹ́ lórí fídíò tàbí lórí photograph tó mọ́lẹ̀ yékéyéké Heritage TV ní bàbá o. gbogbo àwọn ayẹyẹ yín bí ọjọ́ ìbí ìsìnkú àgbà ìgbéyàwó àjọ̀dún ilé ìjọsìn yín Heritage Television ní kẹ́ ẹ máa bọ̀ tààràtà ìlú London la wà United Kingdom la tẹ̀dó sí ẹ kàn sí wa lórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ yìí 020-800-46100 tàbí lórí ẹ̀rọ alátagbà wa ayẹyẹ@heritagetv.co.uk àti lórí ẹ̀rọ alágbèéká 0734-123-4560 Heritage TV abalẹ́tù ọmọdé la wó.
You are especially invited to our 11th year Lady to Lady online conference. The theme is The Overflow, taking place on Saturday the 4th of July 2020. Time is 5 p.m. UK time. Location will be online. To register, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Lady to Lady Global.
This is who you are. You are the light.
To join the conference, or you can follow us on our Facebook page, Lady to Lady Conference. Invite your friends and invite your families.
We worship, we worship, we worship.